Oh, hi. I'm just hanging out in my studio waiting for you to look at me. Welcome to your pick a card reading. And by you, I mean you and your siblings of the soul that are going to relate into one of two numbers. This one or this one. Keep your eye on the prize. Which number is attracting you right now? It can be both, it can be none. If it's both, go ahead and listen to the whole video. If it's none, go ahead and not listen to this video. And if it's one, check this timestamp below. I like to do it this way because, you know, sometimes we pick a number and I'm wondering if it's the sequence the number's in or the number itself or what. So let's start with number 2. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and give myself room to breathe. I'm excited to read for you, and I notice I'm like holding my breath. All right, go ahead and breathe too. It's important. All right, so this reading is going to be about finding love. That's what everyone wants to know about. Okay, let's see. So I don't know where to put this. Oh, there. Okay. So for group number 2, the first card that came out is the Knight of Swords. I don't know why I said that. I just straight up lied to you. Sorry. This is the Knight of Cups. So Knight of Cups is about the romantic, you know, someone who's pursuing the exploration of their own heart, looking for that reality in the world around them. And then we see the Magician, the Ace of Coins, the High Priestess. It's cool, the High Priestess is number 2, and that is the number you picked. So what's interesting about the relationship between the High Priestess and the Magician is that they are sitting right next to each other. They're sitting right next to each other in the major arcana. So it goes the Fool, the Magician, the High Priestess. And I know that this is a no shit. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to use profanity on here. And it's gonna make me like stall a little bit because saying like and cursing are my favorite sort of flow of language. So it's a little, I'm going to be stuttering a little bit, and I'm sorry about that. But okay, here we go. It occurred to me pulling these 2 cards right now that actually they are clearly great partners. I always think of them as such loners. The High Priestess as being someone who is in an ethereal state of mind, not necessarily someone who's very grounded in the world around them. Though under her in the minor arcana we have the Twin Flames, the 2 of Wands, and the 2 of Cups, true love, 2 hearts coming together. So there's 2, again, that number. Also 2, of course, is the number of coupling. So anyway, there's 2 numbers under her that are about specifically romantic love. So she is a romantic, and she does talk about how when you come into connection with someone else, how that has so much to do with our understanding and peeking through the veil of what is and a grander divinity. And seeing her coupled with the Magician is very interesting because the Magician is about being able to be so objective that you are able to make seemingly impossible things happen by making connections that might have been overlooked. So it's having a really solid grasp over your own mentalism and the world around you and being able to kind of make things happen real fast because you're very objective. So both of these cards are, I believe, cards of solitary wisdom. The Magician is more about like the activated application of that kind of permission to move the world around you. That's a very masculine position, where she is like divine, infinite intuition. Both of them are very wise and very self-possessing, but I never thought of them as a couple before. So what I like about that in your reading for love is your lover, that word creeps me out. I don't know why. I use it all the time because it's a card in the tarot, but sometimes when I say it, I'm like, it's just, I don't know. Your lover is going to be someone who is really in their own power as you are in yours. So the more that you're trusting yourself, the more that you exist within your own realm, you'll find that you start to notice, you just like look over and you're like, oh, this actually is a person that can roll with me because they're doing their own thing, and we just so happen to be karmically like shoulder to shoulder, like parallel on our roads. Very different energies. I would say that this person and you share a lot of similarities, but you're also very, very different. But it's just close enough that you guys can definitely have like a long-standing relationship where you're able to stay in your lane, but because you're going towards the right direction and because you have respect for each other, it'll be successful. My dear friend Molly says that in relationships, it's more important to have respect for each other than love for lasting relationships. And I know that sounds a little jaded, but I understand what she means, because sometimes people fall in and out of the waves of sensual romance. But when you have self-respect, and so does your partner, and that you can hold space for each other, you're going in the same directions, and you stay in your power, I think that you're going to have a really powerful dynamic. This is like a power couple. And then we have the Ace of Coins. It's just like this little coin that's being handed to you. And the ace, all the aces sit under the Magician. And then we also over here have the Ace of Swords. So the suit of swords is a very masculine suit, as the suit of earth, coins, pentacles, whatever you want to say, is very feminine. But both of these are being directed out. So I think it's the person, whoever in this relationship embodies the Magician energy, is going to be the one who makes the offering of romance. What does that mean? What am I saying? Oh, the one that's gonna like hit on, pursue, make efforts towards the other. And I think that makes sense because the Magician is more activated, where the High Priestess is kind of like in their head a little bit more, you know? Not as like acting. They're more like, come to me, I will tell you what you need to know. I'll keep it real with whatever I say, but they're not like going out of their way, you know? Whereas the Magician definitely is. And then we have the Eight of Wands that I've drawn into this, I don't know if you can see it, I've drawn it into this sort of beautiful air balloon. I'm calling it beautiful. So anyway, to me, this is like consistency. I say that this relationship will probably last a long time. And then this is like, both of you guys are kind of dreamers, and you both might be trying to make a difference in this world based on a spiritual or emotional intention. And it could be fairly personal or altruistic or political or whatever, based on charity works, or maybe even just an interest in rare books, you know, just something that's very inspiring to both of you. This is like how you guys are going to kind of connect, and you'll find that you're already walking on the same road, and you're like, oh, we're walking on this road together. Why don't we also, okay, I didn't cuss. Okay, trying to keep it clean, all right? Good luck to you in your love life, but it sounds like you don't need it. It's going to be fine for you. And okay, this is your reading, person number 3. So the number 3 is the Empress. So it's about abundance and creativity, nurturing, benevolence, motherhood, birthing, creating. and loving. All right. Let's see what you got. What's your love story, 3? Okay. Ooh. All right. Okay, cool. There's more cards coming at me. Okay. Well, this is a much more annoying reading than the first one. All right, so the first card, we have the Fool. So the Fool is basically a position of not knowing, of hoping, of waiting for the answer to be somewhere found out there in the world, and you have to go exploring and adventuring and just hoping for the best. Your optimism is like here. And in previous videos, I was talking about the eye line that you see in figures and how that kind of represents their perspective in the world, you know, like both literally and symbolically. So when you see figures looking directly at you, they're pretty even keel, you know. If they're looking away from you completely or their back turned to you, they're not engaging face forward. They're not trying to directly engage, they're going within. If they're looking downcast, they feel downcast. They might have like lower energies. Again, upright is a more neutral, ready stance. And then when you see somebody really looking up, they're being so optimistic, and sometimes that isn't a good thing. So the Fool is a fairly innocent card, but what do we know about innocence in this cruel world? You're gonna trip and fall. You're gonna skin your knee. You're gonna have a rude awakening. So it's saying right now that you might be in a space of like over idealism, over optimism, expecting there to be some like magical lover out there waiting for you. Not to say that there isn't, but maybe your expectations of what is to come might be a little different than what happens. Because what we see next is the 4 of Swords inverted, and then the Moon card. So together, following the Fool card, I see that you might be really stubborn about your ideals and what you think should happen to you in romance. And I know that I sound like a condescending brat right now. I don't know your stories. You don't know mine. We're strangers here. It's just a game. Don't worry about it. But anyway, this 4 of Swords is like you're really defensive and you're really not interested in what the other opinions are about different ways to open up and find love in ways that might actually be more holistic for you or healthier or better for you, because you've got your dial set on like what you think should happen to you. Not to say that you don't deserve the things you want, but you may not want the things you think you deserve. Go ahead and think about that. All right, so we have the Moon, which also is like subconscious impulse. This is where our trauma lives. This is where our ancestral trauma lives. This is where our nightmares live and our dreams and fantasies. So for the Moon to come up right next to the 4 of Swords is like there's a reason you've created a psychic fog around the lucidity of what the world should be and what it is and isn't. You might have had some pain you've experienced that has put you in a position where you're creating ideals that are so difficult and strange and specific that you can't touch them because you kind of don't want to touch them. You kind of want to stay alone. You're afraid because you've had some pain happen. And we see that in the Ace of Wands pointing towards the past. And then we have 2 of Wands pointing towards the future. So towards the past, yes, you've had a past experience that felt very passionate to you and probably was not what you thought it would be, or it didn't go down in a way that you felt great about, or maybe you're still holding the torch, so to speak. Like you're still waiting for that to work out. You haven't been able to totally move on. So there's a little bit of a convoluted process there. You're not able to be sharp. You're not able to be present right now because you're a little confused about what happened before, and you might have done the math wrong on what that means for you now. Not to criticize you, again, I don't know what your actual situation is. This is a general reading. It's just a game. Calm down. All right, we have the Hermit and then the Knight of Wands here. The Hermit is inverted. And then we have that lying over the Seven of Wands next to the King of Cups. What does it all mean? So I see two very different people here in your future. And my instinct on this, and I don't know if this is for one or all of you, but I'm compelled to say the Hermit inverted next to the Knight of Wands upright, I would say has to do with maybe, if not specifically a person from your past, then let's say like the archetype of that person that you're looking for in the future. So if you're not literally looking for them, you might just be looking for someone like them. And we see a moody, brooding, sexy, kind of like flash in the pan romance of somebody who you can't really figure out, who doesn't really make sense to you. We're looking at that versus someone who's really hardworking and someone who's really compassionate. So you might have a choice between like a total babe, foxy, crazy, strange, and mysterious, or someone who's a little bit moody and like works a lot but is a trustworthy person. Maybe someone that is less exciting. Maybe they're less sexy also. Sorry. So for my school of thought, I don't think we should, have training wheels for every experience. Like, who's to say that we shouldn't have like that hot fling that lasts for 2 seconds and like totally throws us for a loop and makes us feel crazy? Like, why not? Whatever. I don't know. You're gonna pick what you're gonna pick when you get there. I feel that if it's not there now, then it's gonna happen soon. But I also think that your choices are gonna be guided from a place of deep psychological confusion, which is casting a spell of misinformation around your decision making because you feel basically like you can't really be safe with anyone. So you have like a very fantastical idea of who, what, when, where is your romantic situation ideally like. Another thing about that, it kind of scares me. Just you can't see it up there totally, but the way that the Hermit here is looking at the Fool is like, to me, almost like predatory. You know what I mean? So I feel like when we are in a place of like not really figuring ourselves out, I'm just speaking from experience. When we're vulnerable, when we feel low in ourselves, and we're being a little delusional, we're perfect, ripe, juicy sex fruit or whatever to be taken advantage of by people who can see right through that, and they're like, oh, this person is totally gonna buy my lies and I can say whatever I want to them so I can get whatever I want from them. So that's depressing. Anyway, your ultimate reading is just saying you have a little bit of work to do to find a partnership that will be the lasting one that you probably want and are idealizing. And by that work to do, I mean your ideals aren't actually in alignment with reality, not the things being offered to you, but by the things that you actually want. You might be distorting your ideals based on a hidden program within you that wants you to stay alone because you're scared and hurt. Meanwhile, you might attract some wolves in Romeo's clothing, and but it's the things that you say yes to that like mess you up, because there are other offers being pushed at you that are people who are less toxic, but who's to say like what's right, you know? I think that in our lives we're allowed to experience. That's why we're here. So whatever ideals that you are having maybe need some review. And I don't think that you're gonna in the long run be without. I just think that right now you might have to realign your perception. But that will, if you're not willing to do that within yourself, you're going to look for those experiences externally that are going to hit those buttons for you to realize and awaken. Not to say that anyone deserves to be treated unfairly, but sometimes some subconscious part of ourselves looks for those experiences that sort of like kick us into awareness. Brutal, but here, let's see. Let me pull one more card for you for your, you know what, it's also like a very fantasy land to say that everyone ends up with their person, whatever that means, because it's a blessing if we do, and it's not everyone's life stories. Like, have you ever been to a funeral? There's people that have had epic lives and end up dying alone, you know? There's people who are married for their entire life and they're like, okay, like, I guess that was something I accomplished, gone now. And, you know, their happiness wasn't actually about finding their person or not, you know? So, I think that's, again, another thing that's coming up for this reading is just really checking on what your ideals are and like why you want those things. So I'm going to put one more. Please don't hate me, by the way. I'm just playing a little game, you know. If it resonates, if it pisses you off, if it annoys you, if it makes you emotional, maybe that's something to explore. You're not damned. You're not stuck. No one is going to be throwing you in some kind of dark corner where you are without liberty to choose and decide and move forward. You always have a choice. And this is saying right now, your choice is to stick where you are. Yeah, we have this Four of Swords again. So you're like not interested in budging. To me, when I see this experience, I see someone who is like retreating to lick their wounds. That sounds so gross. I don't know why I said that. I've never repeated that expression, but it seems like you need to protect yourself right now. So you're not totally willing, and you're like at capacity with other stuff you're processing. You're not really ready to take on the next level of whatever, you know? So just be kind to yourself. That's all we can do. And accept that as we go, we're going to find things that please us, and we're going to find things that hurt us and confuse us and like rip our brains open into new paradigms. But I say that you're going to have a pretty cool journey. It might be confusing at times, but the less idealism you can have of what should be, the less your pain will be, which is my gift to you, just an idea. Okay. Blessings.